In the eerie silence of Croatia's Poganica Bay, beneath its tranquil turquoise waters, lies a darkness that swallowed a soul whole. MK, a diver from Croatia, would never return from the labyrinthine depths of an underwater cave, where the unrelenting power of the ocean and the mysterious grip of the cave's maze seemed to take on a life of their own. The year was 2002, and the moon hung heavy in the sky on a fateful September night when MK set out on a dive. He was not alone in his quest. His friends were with him, navigating the crystal-clear waters of Sholta Island. But Poganica, that forsaken bay, had a history whispered among locals. Some said pirates once roamed its shores, while others spoke of creatures from the deepest legends lurking in the deep. Guarding secrets never meant to be discovered, yet no one dared venture close to the hidden cave. The cave that whispered its secrets to the waves, its waters filled with tales that few lived to tell. MK's story would become one of them. The night had fallen heavily by the time MK decided to dive alone. At 9:15 p.m., the other divers had already descended into the cool embrace of the bay, their tanks heavy with air. But MK, a man of adventure, lingered behind. Fueled by the night's reckless excitement and the gentle whisper of the sea, he plunged alone into the dark waters, not knowing that this dive would unravel him in ways unimaginable. As he descended, the entrance to the Poganica cave stretched out before him, a gaping, ominous opening just 9 meters beneath the surface. The cave beckoned, a silent predator in the darkness. The shallow gallery offered some respite, but MK was drawn into the depths, lured by the pull of the deep gallery, a perilous 57-meter plunge that seemed to call out to him. Each kick of his fins took him deeper into the unknown. In that blackened world, clarity was lost. The water, once clear and welcoming, had turned opaque. The swirling silt, disturbed by his every movement, transformed his surroundings into an unrecognizable nightmare. His flashlight flickered. His vision became a void. He was alone in the abyss. For 25 minutes, he ventured deeper, further from the surface, unaware that time was slipping away. His oxygen tank, once a promise of safety, was now a cruel timer. With only 35 minutes of air left, he realized his mistake. He was lost, deep in the bowels of the earth. Panic set in. He searched, desperately, for an exit, for some glimmer of hope. The shallow gallery, that fleeting escape, was now hidden, the murky water concealing the path to freedom. Each breath was a struggle. The darkness surrounded him. Was there still time to rise? Was he already too deep? On the surface, his friends grew uneasy as the minutes stretched into an hour. MK was nowhere to be found. They had seen him descend, but now he was lost to the shadows. As the clock ticked on, dread crept into their hearts. MK hadn't come back up. They dove again. The silt-filled waters swallowed them as they scoured the depths, their flashlights cutting through the darkness in vain. The cave held on to its secrets. No sign of MK surfaced. By 11:41 p.m., their hopes began to die. Desperation set in as the hours passed. The air was thick with fear, the minutes stretching into hours. An emergency call was made, and as dawn's first light broke over the horizon, police divers arrived, too late. The cave had already claimed one life that night. As the police divers descended, their lifeline to the surface stretched, taut with the weight of their resolve. They searched, knowing there was no turning back, no safety line that could save them, if they too became victims of the cave's treacherous allure. At 15 meters, disaster struck again. One diver, caught in the labyrinth's grip, vanished into the darkness. His companion, gasping for air, abandoned the search, escaping the jaws of the abyss but forever marked by the loss. Hours passed before the search continued, now not just for MK, but for a missing diver. Every minute felt like a lifetime. And then, at last, the impossible happened. They found MK 54 meters below the surface. The discovery was chilling. His body was still in full gear, but something was horribly wrong. His diving mask had been torn from his face, the regulator ripped from his mouth. There, lodged into his chest, was a knife, its gleaming blade reflecting the last of the cave's dim light. The scene sent shockwaves through the investigators. How could this happen? How could a man who had been trapped in the cold, dark waters have ended up with a knife buried in his chest? What kind of pain could have driven him to such an extreme act? Was this an accident, or had something darker taken place? The investigation soon revealed the unspeakable truth, a truth more chilling than anyone could have imagined. MK had not been murdered by another. The knife, wedged deep into his chest, was his own. He had taken it upon himself, driven by the excruciating pain of drowning, to end his suffering. In his final moments, as the cold, merciless water filled his lungs, he had plunged the blade into his own chest. It was his final escape from the agony, from the darkness that had swallowed him whole. The autopsy confirmed the horrifying reality. MK had died not from the drowning itself, but from the knife wound. His death was a brutal act of desperation, a final cry for relief from the unbearable pain of the cave's embrace. In his final moments, MK had been alone, lost in a maze of dark tunnels, surrounded by the crushing silence of the cave. The murky waters, the disorienting silt, the haunting blackness that closed in on him. These were the elements that conspired against him. No one would ever know exactly how it happened, but the cave, with its ancient power, had been the true force behind MK's tragic end. This was not just a death. It was the death of a spirit swallowed by the very mystery of the cave itself. His friends, his family, the divers who sought to rescue him, they would never forget the way the cave had taken him. It wasn't just the water that claimed him, but the suffocating grip of an unknown, malevolent force that only the cave truly understood. And with MK's passing, that force grew stronger, its secrets even deeper, for the cave, it seemed, would never truly let go. And so, the tragedy of MK remains, etched in the depths of Poganica Bay, forever a mystery. The knife, the mask, the regulator, they are all the remnants of his desperate struggle for air. The legend of Poganica Bay grows with every whispered word of his death, as the cave remains an enigma, silent and powerful, holding its secrets close. MK's death may have been an accident, a horrible, heartbreaking accident, but it is also the story of a man alone in the most unforgiving place on earth, facing the silent wrath of a cave that claims its own. The mystery lingers, and the cave waits patiently for the next soul brave enough or foolish enough to dive into its depths.